theyeshiva.net.
First and foremost, this lecture is dedicated in memory of Meir Khan, Rabbi Yaakov Meir ben Rabbi Binyamin HaKohen, one of South Africa's most respected, foremost businessmen, headed a multinational corporation, president of Miracle Drive, a fundraiser for the Chabad House of Johannesburg, and in his honor, Chabad House Johannesburg has been running the Modeh Ani program. So this is dedicated in the loving memory and for the unique soul and in tribute to Meir Khan. Also, in loving memory of someone who I also had the privilege of knowing, Rabbi Kappel Bacher, Rabbi Avram Kappel ben Reb Shaul Halevi Bacher of blessed memory. He was the chairman of the Lubavitch Foundation of South Africa, and in whose honor Chabad House of South Africa.
Recording in progress.
In whose honor Chabad House of South Africa will in the coming months be publishing the great work known as The Essence of Chassidus, Inyana Shel Teiras HaChassidus. May both of their memories be a blessing to all of us, and may their souls continue to be sources of light, love, inspiration to their families, to their loved ones, to the entire South African amazing Jewish community, to all of us, to all of the Jewish people, Tehei Nishmasam Tzura B'Tzur HaChaim, and thank you very, very much. Let's delve in to the topic that we want to explore today, this evening. Here it's this afternoon, by you it's this evening. And that is the meaning of the prayer of Modeh Ani, which is essentially gratitude. Gratitude for a new day. It's today, in today's era, that we can truly appreciate the wisdom of our sages, who told us that the first thing when you wake up in the morning, offer gratitude. And the way we do it in the Jewish tradition is, you open your eyes before you went to the bathroom, before you brushed your teeth, before you showered, before you attended your needs, before you made your bed, before you even washed your hands, washed your face, got rid of all the things you want to get rid of in your eyes after you wake up. I'm still in bed. I didn't even get out of bed. And the biggest miracle, before you check your phone, before you check the news, before you send a WhatsApp or listen to a WhatsApp. In the Jewish tradition, we open our eyes. We just experienced the first glimmer of consciousness. And you know how a barrage of thoughts, hits you. Or could hit you. And before anything, we give a special gift, and it's a gift of gratitude. It's a gratitude prayer. And it consists of 12 words in Hebrew. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechazarta bi nishmati, b'chem l'rabba emunatecha. Translation: I express gratitude to you, the eternal and living King, for restoring and returning my soul to me with compassion. Great is your trust. Great is your faithfulness. What's the purpose of this? Why do it the first thing when you wake up? Go to the bathroom, take a shower, brush your teeth, get dressed, look like a mensch, put on your suit, put on your tie, and then you'll go prayers. You'll say, thank God for your soul. No. This is in bed before anything. And the answer is because, as the Baal Shem Tov said, the first thought that we experience in the morning sets the tone for the entire day. It's like those who speak, give lectures or speeches, know that one of the most important things is, how do you start? How the plane takes off. Crowds give you approximately 12 seconds to show them that you're a captain of the ship that can be trusted, or you're a captain of a ship who is insecure. When you get up to speak, you have 12 seconds to show the audience that there's somebody here with full presence who's going to take control of this moment and will bring the audience with God's grace to a beautiful, majestic place, or to demonstrate that you don't know why you're there, You're incompetent, you're inept, you're not confident, you're insecure, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, you're anxious. 12 seconds. And either they're with you or they're back on their phones. Modeh has 12 words, 12 seconds or a little less, in which we set the course of our day. What type of day is it going to be? Is it going to be a day of gratitude, a day of bliss, a day of focus, a day of meaning, a day of purposefulness, a day of emotional health and well-being? Or it will just be a frivolous day, a chaotic day, a day in which I'm trying to catch my tail, a day in which I'm trying to do everything and do nothing, a day in which I allow stress and anxiety to overwhelm me, a day where I'm not sure I'm coming, I'm going, because I'm always trying to catch something else, and I'm responding rather than coming from a place of being proactive. So the first message in Modeh is to be able to identify who you are. Who is it that just woke up? Who is it? Who am I? Who is this person who woke up? I woke up this morning. You woke up this morning. Who woke up? Who is it? And the first thing we say is, I'm grateful for the soul that you have given me. Hechazarta bi nishmati, you have given me a soul. What does that mean, you have given me a soul? What it means is that at my core, I'm not an isolated, broken, lonely human being. At my core, I'm a derivative of infinite consciousness. I'm a piece of God. I'm a fragment of infinity. I'm a spark of Hashem. I am a derivative of the consciousness of allness, of the consciousness of what the Kabbalists call Ein Sof, infinity. I am a direct link and a manifestation of the infinite love, bliss, light, wisdom, intelligence in the universe, which I am manifesting. When you say that you have a soul, you were given a soul, essentially means that essentially your life force is divine consciousness that is cruising and vibrating through your body. And that you and I and all of you and every one of us has an opportunity to live and facilitate and breathe and embody during this day. Why is this so important? Because it right away puts perspective on who I am and who I'm not. I could basically see myself from two perspectives. One is, I'm a needy person, and I need everybody's validation in order to fill my void. I'm always chasing and looking for another way of filling my voids by cravings that will, in my own mind, fill those voids. So one person is addicted to their food, another person is addicted to their alcohol, another person is addicted to their iPhone, another person is addicted to money, to power, this one is trying to people please, this one is seeking validation, this one is just anxious and overwhelmed and stressed. But what if I can go into a much deeper place? And the first moment when I woke up, even though there may be a lot of thoughts swimming inside my brain, and a lot of different emotions and a lot of different triggers, but what if I can actually, in stillness and silence, I can focus in a very meditative and serene and calm way on this truth. And the truth is, I am more than anything else, I am a soul. What the Tanya calls a chelik eleika mimal mamish, a literal piece of God above. If that's the case, essentially, I'm whole. Essentially, there is wholeness inside of me. Psalms describes God and says, confidence and joy is in his space. Oiz v'chedva b'mkomo. How do you know you're in touch with your soul? When you're in a space of confidence and joy. This doesn't mean I have no pain. This doesn't mean the world is complete. This doesn't mean I don't have work to do. On the contrary. I was sent down here because I have a lot of work to do. But it means that essentially, I'm in a place of very, very deep confidence and bliss. I may make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I have flaws. But in my deepest core, I'm whole. I'm fine. I'm perfect. I'm a piece of God. And that's non-negotiable. That's absolute. All of my anxiety, all of my overwhelmness, all of the emotions and thoughts that come in to hijack my soul have to be understood as hijackers. They're here and they can easily hijack me from my inner serenity. Now, this is much easier said than done. As I'm talking about it, I'm aware of the struggle even within myself because we have so many thoughts that give us different perspectives. No, you failed here. You were miserable here. You made a terrible mistake here. You're bad. You're not good. There's so much shame and there's so much blame, and you should have done this, and you could have done this better. You should have done that better. And it's remorse mixed in with guilt and self-loathing and lack of self-respect and lack of self-love and internal negative emotions, whether it's resentment or anger or frustration or jealousy or animosity or just terrible fear and dread and being overwhelmed and just always anxious. So these are natural thoughts that we all deal with. But as the great Hasidic masters explain, we always have to distinguish between the core and the shell, between the etzem, the essence, and the klipa, the husk. I have a lot of shells, and those shells may hijack me and may completely capture my brain. And now they want me and my heart to be incarcerated by their powerful, powerful, intense triggers. What Modeh Ani is, come back to the core. Come back to the essence. I am grateful to you for the fact that I am a soul. Not only I have a soul, I am a soul. You know, we always say the soul is inside the body, but really it's the opposite. The body is inside the soul. The soul is in the body, but the soul is also above the body. The soul is divine consciousness. The body is one aspect of the soul. The body is inside the soul. The soul is not inside the body. The body facilitates and channels and manifests the soul in a physical way. A healthy body is a body that's aligned with the soul rather than a body that is in dissonance with the soul. So the first thing, I want to go back to that core self. And now it's an experience of gratitude. Because the soul is always grateful. The soul is grateful for the opportunity to serve, for the opportunity to be a channel of infinite love, of infinite bliss, of infinite light, of infinite hope, of infinite healing. And here again, this is a litmus test. Am I in the space of my soul, or am I in the place of my shells, my husks? In the soul, there's gratitude. There's gratitude because there's serenity, there's calmness. Because the soul knows that its entire function is to be a channel for God's light, and it's grateful for the opportunity. Wow, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do that I woke up this morning and I was given a gift of channeling the Creator into creation? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? This is not my world. The oxygen that I'm inhaling, I didn't create. The 70 trillion cells that make my body function, 70 trillion cells working in perfect synchronization, don't belong to me. I did not design them. I did not mold them. I did not conceive of them. In fact, the structure and intricacy of a single cell in your organism is more complex, more intricate, designed in a more purposeful way than the entire infrastructure of Johannesburg, Melbourne, Sydney, Moscow, Tel Aviv, London, Paris, New York, and Los Angeles put together. The crazy, insane complexity and intricacy in a singular cell is mind-staggering. It's mind-blowing. It's astounding. It's astounding beyond what words can even describe. I made nothing of this. And yet, I was given the privilege to manifest the infinite Creator inside this miraculous body this morning once again. Wow. Wow. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty intense. Now, as we say this, but there's other thoughts, right? The other thoughts say, yeah, but you failed. You didn't give a good class. Oh, you're boring. Oh, they're falling asleep. Oh, they're texting. Oh, what happened yesterday at the business meeting? Oh, what happened between you and your spouse this afternoon? Oh, what about this child? What about that child? And what about this failure? And what about this issue? And then what's going on in the world? We have an elections date. We have elections happening today. So lebedekum freilich, right? Crazy world. I can go to all these places and have so much to do. And what's happening in the bank? And what about this, that? Oh, and then have this issue, and now have this issue. And crazy to-do list. Who has time for gratitude? Who has time for prayer? Who has time for serenity? But then we schlep through the day with such heaviness. And it's not to judge ourselves or to judge anybody. It's very natural to go there. Because it's so easy for us to be schlepped down by all of these different types of thoughts that want to derail us from the truth. And how does it derail us from the truth? It diverts us from focusing on the real issue here. And the real issue is you're good. You're safe. God loves you. In fact, you're a piece of God. You're a derivative of God. You are a manifestation of Hashem's light. That's what it means that you have a soul. That is the soul. It's not that you're a good guy because you achieved a lot, or you're a great woman because you fulfilled all your duties. It's the opposite. You're essentially and intrinsically whole. The Tanya says that the soul is perfect. It doesn't come down for tikkun. It doesn't need to correct anything. It comes down to lift up the body and to lift up the animal consciousness, which is the physical life of the body, the life that lives in the blood. So we thank and we're grateful for the fact that we can go back to this inner place of serenity and calmness, beyond all these thoughts, beyond. There's that stillness, what Elijah calls, what the Bible calls kol d'mamadaka, that still inner voice of the little child inside of you and the little adult inside of you, or the big adult inside of you, which is a piece of divine. So that's why the first thing we say is, I want to thank you, Melech Chai V'Kayim, eternal and living and enduring consciousness, that you gave a piece of this consciousness into me, and I can be a flow of that light. And that's what I want to be today. I want to be today an ambassador of love, light, hope, truth, clarity, healing, redemptive consciousness. We add something else in this prayer. We say, Rabbi emunasecha. What does that mean? Literally, it means your trustworthiness is great. Why are we talking about your trustworthiness? One way of saying it is, maybe God decided to give me back my soul after my sleep. That's true. But there's something much deeper. And that is Moses, at the end of his life, in the end of the book of Deuteronomy, he calls God Kel Emunah, a trustworthy God, a God of faith. What does it mean God is a God of faith? That God has faith in God? I assume that God believes in God. If he's God, he probably believes in God. I don't think God is an atheist or an agnostic. What does Moses mean when he uses those words in the Parsha of Ha'azinu, the end of Deuteronomy, right before his passing, the last day of his life? God is a God of faith. God is a God of emunah. So the Sifri, the Midrash, says as follows, Shehemin ba'olamai ubarai. God had faith in his creation. He had faith in his world. He created it. That's the idea in Modeh, Rabbi emunasecha. Great is your faith. In whom? In me. Great is your trust in me. You created me another day. You gave me another day. You believe in me. You trust me. You know I have flaws. You know I have insecurities. You know I made mistakes. You know I have transgressions. You know there's things that I need to fix and I need to heal and I need to repair. But beyond all of that, emunah, you have faith in me. You have trust in me. You say, come, let's start over again. I want to share something with you that I heard myself from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This was in the summer of 1990. And he asked a question. He said, why did God create our systems in a way that we need so much time for sleep every single 24-hour cycle? Maimonides writes that a person should sleep 8 hours. If you need more, you should sleep more. He feels that the healthy lifestyle of a person is to sleep 8 hours. Now, I know some of you get away with 7. I know some of you get away with 6. And I know some of you get away with 5. And some of you get away with less. And I guess every person has to see what works for them. But very often when people are sleep deprived, they think they don't need to sleep, but they become passive aggressive. They're angry, they're dysfunctional, or certainly they're not optimizing their creativity and their potentiality. So as much sleep as you need, but we all need many hours of sleep, and some of us would do well with getting the full 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep, especially when you're younger and the brain is growing. And the Rebbe asked a question, what a waste of time. You say, well, we need to sleep for our bodies to replenish, for our souls to regenerate, for our psyches to be able to let go, for all the dirt to get recycled and dealt with, and the debris, all the processing in our dreams. We need it. I get it. But God could have created a biological system that we would need an hour of sleep, a half an hour of sleep, maybe 5 minutes of sleep. No, it does not work. Some animals need much less sleep, right? Some animals just sleep a few minutes at a time. What is the meaning of this? And the Rebbe said something very profound. I'll never forget it. Summer 1990. He said, because God wants to give us the ability every day to start life as though it was completely new. And for this, we need to be able to interrupt the old and be open to the new. If sleep would only be a half an hour, or even a little more than that, there would be a constant continuum in life. God wants to give us the ability to be able to experience newness, freshness. We say in the prayers, He renews the creation every single day. The Baal Shem Tov says, every moment the world is recreated from nothingness into somethingness. That means to be fully alive, it's always about being present in the now. Now is always the most important moment. There was a great mentor of Mendel Futerfas, a great chassid. He used to say, the most important place and most significant and majestic place you'll ever be is the place you're in right now. The greatest moment you will ever experience is the moment you are in right now. And the most important and fascinating person you'll ever meet is the person you're speaking to right now. That means I'm talking to myself. What is the greatest and most important lecture or class that I will ever give in my life? And the real answer the Baal Shem Tov says is, right here, right now. You are the most important people I'll ever meet. But why? Because it's now. Because if I'm living in yesterday or I'm living in tomorrow, I'm not living at all. Life is a constant flow. It's a dynamic flow. It's like oxygen. You inhale and exhale, not yesterday's oxygen. It's constant. You inhale, you breathe in, you breathe out. The word neshama comes from the word neshima, which means breath. The end of Psalms is kol ha-neshama tahalal yudke halaluka. Every soul will praise you. So the Midrash says, kol neshama, kol neshima o neshima. Every breath is another way of expressing gratitude. In other words, what is really life? What is life? Is life pressure? Is life anxiety? Life is the breath of life that I'm taking right now. That is life. There's nothing else to life. Everything else is my thoughts, my imaginations, my worries, my anxieties, my projections, what I impose on you, what I impose on me, what I impose on him, what I impose on her. But it's a distraction of life. Life, the Baal Shem Tov says, is being created right now. God is giving the flow of life right now, so it's always in the now that I'm alive. Completely. And specifically, every day, it's a new life. It's not just another day, it's a new life. So the Rebbe said if there wasn't sleep, everything would just be on and on and on. Sleep is really the ability to say, it's all new. You say, yeah, but our memory keeps us stuck in the past. This is where Modeh Ani comes in. Modeh Ani is the ability to say today, you gave me back my soul. And that soul is perfect. It's like the soul of a 1-day-old child because the soul remains pure, untarnished, unscathed. The soul is not filthy. Even if you went through difficulties and challenges, even if, God forbid, you went through abuse, even if you experienced emotional neglect, even if you grew up in a dysfunctional home, your father was a raging alcoholic, your mother was mentally challenged, or other types of struggles that you endured, and you know, and heaven knows how much you struggled and how much you may be suffering. And even if you had wounds and deep, deep traumas that have left their scars embedded on your body, on your psyche, on your brain, on your heart, on your soul, the truth is that just like nobody can abuse God, nobody can obliterate God, nobody can destroy God, nobody could contaminate God, nobody can cause God to go into a depression. Nobody can do that to your soul. They can try to. And for many years, I may live in that shell. I could live in a bubble of crazy self-shame and crazy self-blame. But that's a cover-up of my soul. So every day I wake up in the morning, and with all my energy, I reclaim that truth of my inner purity that needs nobody's validation. And even if I made many mistakes and I'm not perfect, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm pure, I'm a whole, I'm a piece of God. And now I want to show up to life from that internal space. And that's the idea of why there is a new morning. A little story. My father was a journalist. And in 1971, he visited the former Soviet Union. It was then illegal for anybody to go in and come out. You had to get special permission and have protection to get in. And he went in as a journalist. So he was allowed to visit as an American journalist. The Lubavitcher Rebbe had an underground network in the Soviet Union connecting to all of his disciples, students, Hasidim who lived there, and the underground operations of Jewish schools, synagogues, social programs, mikvahs, daycares, yeshivas, ritual slaughterers, mayalim to make circumcisions, prayer books, learning Torah, all underground. Everything was illegal. You're talking about the dark communist years. So it was all underground. It was clandestine. It was secretive. And the Rebbe had a whole very impressive and intricate, literally underground network with thousands of Jews living behind the Iron Curtain. So before my father left, he was 4 hours by the Rebbe, who gave him a lot of missions of where to go, what to do, what to deliver, what to say, messages to give over, etc. When my father came back from the Soviet Union, this is in the winter, this is, I think, December 1970 or January 1971, the beginning of 71. He shared this. He went in to visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe for a 4-hour audience, which lasted from midnight until dawnbreak. And he basically shared with the Rebbe all of his experiences and his encounters with hundreds and hundreds or dozens and dozens of Jews living in the Soviet Union, some of them suffering terribly and committed to Jewish observance and Jewish education under unbearable circumstances. Remember, if you didn't work on Shabbos, they confiscated your work ID. You could be sent to Siberia. If they found out that you weren't sending your kids to the public school, you send them to Jewish education, you could be imprisoned. I mean, it's a crazy country, a sick country, a toxic country. What the Jews in the Soviet Union suffered was unbearable. People don't even know about it. And my father was sharing with the Rebbe all of his experiences, the people he met and their families, and the Rebbe asked him questions. And he said that during the night, there were times that the Rebbe literally put down his head and just started to cry because he had a personal and intimate relationship with so many of the people there. And it was a difficult 4 hours just reporting on this story and that story and this family and this community and this shul and this synagogue and this underground network. And then he says it was time to leave. He finished his report and he walked out from the Rebbe's room. This is on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. And as he's walking out, he's about to leave the room. He hears the Rebbe speaking to himself. And the Rebbe looked out the window of his room, which faces Eastern Parkway, if you're familiar with Brooklyn geography. He looks out and he could see that the sun is about to come up. It was already dawnbreak and soon would be sunrise. So the sun already cast its rays on the part of planet Earth that the Lubavitcher Rebbe could observe from his chambers in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, New York, in the United States of America. And speaking half to himself, and I guess half to my father, because my father was already leaving, the Rebbe picks up his hands and he says in Yiddish, a nayer tag. It's a new day. And my father walked out of the room. And it was such a powerful lesson, because here the Rebbe lived through a night of challenge, of pain, of suffering, of anguish. He heard the stories of countless Jews suffering under the burden and the tyranny of Stalin, Lenin, and Trotsky's regime. He heard the episodes, he heard the tales of anguish. He heard the tales of deep, deep suffering. And it was a long night, an exhausting night. Not only did he not sleep at the night, but it was a night of hearing how much his people are going through. And yet, God sent new rays. The sun was beginning to rise. And just in a natural, instinctive expression of Modeh, the Rebbe says, Anayatag. It's a new day. A new day meant there's new hope. There's new possibilities. There's new opportunities. There's a new energy. Carpe diem. Seize the day. This requires a lot of letting go. Because if I'm stuck in old patterns, in old voices, in old triggers, it's not a new day. It's SOS. Same old spaghetti or same old sushi. It's the same SOD, same old day. Yesterday, repeating itself again and again and again. Modeh is the gift of Zanayatag. It's a new day. And here we come to a very powerful insight in this unique essay that was published back in 1970 called On the Essence of Hasidus. On the 19th of Kislev, 1965, the 19th of Kislev is the day that the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, was liberated, and the Rebbe held his Fabring in his gathering. And he dedicated a major talk to explain what was the contribution of Hasidism. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, who was born in 1698, died in 1760. He revealed to the world the teachings of Hasidut, as they're called. His student, the Maggid of Mezritch, who died in 1772, succeeded the Baal Shem Tov. And then you had the Hasidic dynasties and branches that branched out from the Maggid of Mezritch throughout all the generations until this very generation. One of them was, of course, the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi, who founded the Chabad school of Hasidism. And the seventh generation was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who in 1965 dedicated a talk on the day of liberation of the Alter Rebbe. What is this Hasidus? What is it just some cute, nice, inspirational insights? And he explained then, to say it really in one sentence, that there's 5 layers to the soul and there's 5 layers to Torah. Consciousness has 5 layers: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. There's the most basic level of consciousness, which is physical consciousness, the life of the body, the nervous system. The 9 systems of biology, whether the urinary system, the respiratory system, the digestive systems, the circulatory system, etc., etc. There's ruach. Ruach is the emotive consciousness, the emotions, connected to the limbic brain. The first one is connected to the amygdala. You have neshama connected to the prefrontal cortex, the cognitive consciousness. You have chaya, which is the spiritual consciousness, the curiosity of the human being to spiritual truth, the yearning and the longing for spirituality. And then you have the deepest, the 5th level, called yechida. Yechida means oneness, because it is one with God, because it is God. It's undefined. You can't define God, you can't define that. It's at the core of the soul where you're completely one with God. That's why Yom Kippur we have 5 prayers, because each day we try to reach one level of consciousness. Yom Kippur we reach all 5 in a very conscious way. The 5th one, the yechida. Torah also has 5 layers: Pshat, Remez, Drush, Sod, Chasidus. Pshat is the most basic level of Torah study, the literal interpretation, which is always the foundation. And then you have what's called Remez, Drush, Sod. Remez are homiletical interpretations. Drush are all of the profound, intricate expandings of the sages, the work of the Talmud and the work of the Midrash, both in the terms of halacha, of Jewish law, and the stories and the ethics. And then you have Sod, Kabbalah, the esoteric dimension. And they correspond to the different levels of the soul. And then there's the contribution of Hasidus, which wants to come to the essence. And the essence always doesn't create something new. It just reveals what is the essence of everything. And the essence of everything is that you're really a channel of infinity. And when you let go, you are infinity. And then the Rebbe said he wants to take one subject in Judaism and demonstrate the process. And he chose Modeh Ani. And he explained Modeh Ani on 4 different levels, the 4 different levels of Torah study, and then the 5th level, Yechida. And I'm going to go straight to the 5th. And he said, this is a great teaching of the Hasidic masters. And he said, it's the only prayer we say with unclean hands. We always, before we pray, we wash our hands. It's called Negelvas in Netilat Yadayim. The first thing you do in the morning is you wash your hands, because the hands are impure. It was a whole night. I don't know what I touched, where I touched. The hands could be physically dirty and sometimes spiritually unclean. And there's a spirit of impurity that comes down when I'm asleep. So you wash your hands. Always in the morning we wash our hands. And there's a special blessing, Al Netilat Yadayim. And this is the prayer we say before we wash our hands. And by the way, that's why we don't mention God's name. Because you don't mention God's name before you wash your hands in the morning. Modeh Ani is one prayer that doesn't have God's name. That's on one level. But then the Rebbe said, let me share the deepest Hasidic interpretation. And that is, Modeh Ani, you could say, before your hands have been cleaned, because you're touching a place in you that could never be unclean. You're touching a place in you that can't be contaminated. So many different parts of me can be contaminated. They can become burdened with different types of emotional and psychological burdens. But the Modeh Ani of a Jew could never become impure. The Modeh Ani of a Jew, the core purity of your soul, remains full of life and bliss and vitality and clarity and wisdom and empowerment. It could never become tainted. And therefore you could say it when your hands are impure, because on that level there's no impurity. No impurity can touch this space. And by the way, that's why we don't mention God's name, because this is beyond names. This is God's essence beyond names. Now think about what this message is telling us. Modeh is coming and touching that place that can't become impure. Wow, there's a part of me that can't become impure. Rabbi, why? Are you real? I mean, come on. I know me. I'm a mess. I have anxiety. I made mistakes. I did this. I can prove to you that so much of me is contaminated. But the truth is, there's a part of you that could never be contaminated. And therefore you could say it when your hands are impure, because that level can't be impure. I don't care if you were sleeping. I don't care if you were up. I don't care where you were. That space was present in all your pain, but it cannot be contaminated ever. And that's what you're connecting to from the place of Modeh. And this is so true in all of our relationships, because when we approach life from this place, let's talk for a moment about marriage. If you could connect to your spouse from the space in you that is not damaged, what type of relationship is it going to be? You know, so often when we're talking to our spouses, they trigger us because they trigger our wounds. My wife may say something to me and it may trigger my insecurity. And now either I find myself in a space of flight or fight or freeze or fawn. Why am I responding this way? Why do I have to be aggressive? Why do I have to emotionally disassociate and disconnect? Why do I need a stonewall? Why do I need to gaslight? Why do I need to become a people's pleaser? Why do I need to run away from the situation? Why? And the answer is, it's too painful. I'm wounded. And this is my way of surviving. But what if you could remain in the relationship connected to the space in you that's not contaminated? That can't be contaminated. The space that no contamination in the world, psychological, emotional, spiritual, physical, can affect. Then you remain whole. And then you could reply to her or to him from that space. You can watch all these thoughts in you. You can see all the triggers in you. You can hold space for them and have compassion and empathy for them. But you don't step away from the core self, which is safe, which is whole. That's the Modeh inside of you. That can be said before your hands were clean, before your hands were washed. What if you can relate to your children from that space? Sometimes your child may trigger you so heavily. Your teenage girl or boy may say something that you feel is rude or obnoxious or self-centered or narcissistic or unappreciative, and you want to lash out at your son. You want to lash out at your daughter. You want to say, chutzpah in this house will not be tolerated. You are so unappreciative. But really what's happening is my own wounds are being triggered. My 17-year-old or my 15-year-old is triggering the child inside of me who never got recognition or never got validation or is so deeply scathed or so deeply wounded. Or the child inside of me who is scared, who's trying so hard to make this perfect family and is failing again and I feel like such a loser. Or maybe my child is teaching me that I'm a failure and I don't get the nachas that I deserve. And they're triggering so much anger in me and I get it. But what if you can respond to your child from your pure, untainted soul that is a derivative of divine consciousness and is whole, it's full, it's confident, it's joyous, it's blissful, it's calm, it's serene. You know why? Because it's a piece of God. Now respond to your child. Ooh, it's going to be a different response. You'll hold space for their pain. You'll hold space for your pain with empathy and compassion. But you won't be derailed. You won't go down a rabbit hole of anger, resentment, frustration, anxiety, being triggered. You'll be able to choose a reaction that is expressing your desire to connect and to remain attached. Imagine you could respond to your own triggers from this space, from this inner soul that is whole and untainted. You don't have to blame yourself. You don't have to scream at yourself. You don't have to tell yourself, I'm such a loser, I'm such an idiot. Try it right now. Can you just hold space with compassion and empathy for all these critical thoughts inside of you, for the harsh inner critic inside of you that's constantly always trying to derail you? Just hold space for it and say, I'm so sorry you have to go there. But always have in mind that inner core that remains safe, remains calm, even if your brain is not letting you experience it. The same is true when you go to work and when you meet friends and throughout our relationships and even the way we relate to the news and the way I sit down to eat a meal. Because at every moment I can choose, either to be aligned with my soul in the space of my infinity, or to be detached and drift away. I'm going to conclude with a story. And the story is about a great Lithuanian sage. His name was Rabbi Yecheskel Abramsky. And now, as you know, much of the South African community was built from Lithuanian Jews. Jews from Lita, from the Lithuania that moved to South Africa. And that's why some of the great Lithuanian sages used to come to South Africa, like the Panovich Rav Kahneman, who came very often, I think, to South Africa, because so many of his people back in Lithuania, even those he married who moved here, etc., and he raised money for his yeshiva and his institutions in Israel. But South Africa and Lithuania had a very deep kinship, probably still do, even though it's new generations. So one of the great sages of Lithuanian Jewry, his name was Rabbi Yecheskel Abramsky. He was the rabbi of Slutsk, and he was exiled to Siberia by the communists. Ultimately, he made it out. He moved to London, and then he moved to Israel. He had a son who became a real left-wing communist. Oh my God. A real communist. But he himself was a Torah giant. And he wrote a lot of books. Chazon Yecheskel. I mean, he was a very interesting personality. He was in Siberia for 3 years. He came out and he went to visit the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, whose namesake I carry. I'm privileged to have his name, Yosef Yitzchak. Why is Yosef Yitzchak? And he visited the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe who ran the underground network in Russia in the 1920s and 1930s. And he shared with him a memory from Siberia. And he said as follows: every morning he woke up in the gulag, in his barrack. What did he have? Garnished. Nothing. But he said, Modeh Modeh lefanecha, I thank you, Hashem, eternal King, enduring King, living King, for giving me back my soul with compassion. Great is your trust. Great is the emunah. Great is the trust in you. Great is your faith. Great is your emunah. And he said one day, he asked himself, why am I thankful? Why am I grateful? Why am I grateful? What do I have here? I don't have my wife. I don't have my children. I don't have a home. I don't have safety. I don't have a shelter. I don't have security. I certainly don't have a job. I don't have my health in optimal shape. I am a slave laborer of Stalin, of Joseph Stalin, Yamach Shemai. A victim of the communist hell. A slave laborer in Joseph Stalin's gulag, where Stalin managed to murder between 20 and 50 million people during his reign of terror from 1924 until his death in March 1953 in the week of Purim. Stalin killed tens of millions of people. He killed more people than Hitler killed. Why am I thankful? Why am I saying Modeh? What do I have? What do I have here? That's what he tells the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And as I'm saying it, I have all this ambivalence and all this guilt, like I'm a hypocrite, I'm inauthentic. No, I'm not grateful. My life is a curse, my life. And then he said to the Rebbe these words. He said, and then I came to the last words, Rabba emunah secha. Great is your emunah. Great is the faith that you have, or great is your faith, or the faith in you. And I realized, that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for the fact that I have faith. I'm thankful for the fact that I have Rabba emunah secha. I have my faith in you. I have my trust in you. Wow, I have you. And at that moment, I could cultivate the frequency of trust and surrender. That despite the fact that so much in my life was difficult, and so much of my life was incomprehensible, and I did not know the future, and I did not control the future, and I was deprived of the most basic necessities of a human being, and deprived of the most basic things that give us our dignity and our freedom and our liberty. First and foremost, that I can move according to my own will. And it was all taken from me. One thing they couldn't take from me: my trust in you, my faith in you, my relationship with you, my ability to show up with my full authentic self. And the Rebbe looked at him and said, wow, sometimes it takes a person to be 3 years in Siberia to reach such an insight and to share it with me. What a gift you're giving me, the Rebbe said. Sometimes a person could be 3 years in Siberia. And that's when they can reach this level of awareness. The Rebbe was thanking him because here was a Jew who took his negative, crazy experience and it gave him such an awareness, such an elevated consciousness that he might have never had. And the Rebbe was thanking him for being this person and for sharing it with him. And I thought to myself, in each of our lives, there are struggles, there are challenges, there are things we have to work through. And sometimes the greatest thing we can be grateful for is Rabbi Munasecha, the fact that I could show up once again with faith, with courage, with resolve, with confidence, saying, I'm going to be your channel in this world. The ability to open myself up to my vulnerability, to my trust, to my surrender, not because I understand, I don't understand, not because I could control, I can't control, but it's the gift of surrendering to that which we know is the source of all love, the source of all bliss, the source of all intelligence. The infinite we can't comprehend, we can't grasp, we can't make sense of it because if we do, it's not infinite, it's only what my logic can comprehend. What I could do is, I can open myself up to it and surrender to it. And in that surrender, there is so much gratitude. And yes, there is so much bliss. Thank you very much.
Wow, Rabbi, that was absolutely profound. In Johannesburg, in our community, we recently had the privilege of hearing 2 hostages speak. And your last thoughts now, the resounding takeout was their ability for gratitude, even in the worst, most despicable hell on earth. So that really, really resonates. I think I speak for everyone. I know we don't have much time, so I'm gonna invite if the audience have any questions, please post them in the Q&A. We might have a minute or two to take them. But after hearing you speak, I really feel a true sense of calmness. So many insights, so many messages. And like the title of the talk, I honestly feel awake. So the first question is, you mentioned we all live with anxieties, we live with challenges, we live with obstacles, people pulling us in different directions. Can I only say Modeh in the morning? I mean, I feel like after hearing the formula for connecting and feeling at one with Hashem, the power of the prayer Modeh, can I say it at any point?
Great question. Why only say it in the morning when we have these challenges throughout the day? And that's exactly the point. The statement of Modeh is not meant just for the morning. It's meant as a tone setter to define the trajectory. It's like knowing the direction. In many ways, if you get into your car and you're taking a long trip, I don't know, you're going to Kruger National Park or you're taking another trip, maybe it's a 4-hour trip, a 6-hour trip, you're driving to Cape Town, whatever it is, and you put in the directions and they say, okay, this is the road, and they show you the destination and say, you'll be there in 4 hours and 59 minutes. So you don't shut off the map then. You don't say, okay, we know where we're going. No, you set it, but now you follow it. Modeh is the trendsetter. It's creating the trajectory. It's saying where I want to go today. Today I am going to be, and I want to be an ambassador of love, light, hope, healing, redemptive consciousness. Today I want to be a channel. Today I don't need to be in my ego place. I don't need to be in my insecurity place. I don't need to be in my narcissistic place. Today I'm going to be open just to be a channel. So now you set your destination. But now there's the way to get there, right? Take a right, take a left, go straight. Avoid that road. There's a lot of traffic. Avoid that road. There's a ditch. So Modeh is really setting the trajectory, but it's really a whole day experience. A whole day I want to channel the Modeh. I want to always go back to that Modeh and saying, is this taking me to my destination? Did I just get distracted? Maybe I sat down by breakfast and I maybe got overwhelmed by this Danish. That's what happens to me. I got overwhelmed by this cheesecake and I forgot who I am. I just fell into this trap. Maybe I went into a business meeting and I just got so triggered by my partner or by my competitor, I just lost it. I lost it. Maybe I went to the bank and I got overwhelmed. Maybe I got a call from the principal's office and I'm now anxious. Maybe I got a call from somebody else, my relative or this, and I'm again anxious. So it's always, going back to the Modeh, which is the trendsetter. It's the trajectory. It's the finding the destination and matching it, synchronizing with it. So yes, absolutely. And if you feel like you want to say in the middle of the day, that's perfectly fine. There's no problem saying Modeh whenever you want. That's really the objective, to set this tone for the whole day.
Fantastic. I think on that point, Chassidus teaches us that every soul has a unique mission. So how can reciting Modeh help with this awareness to connect and fulfill one's individual purpose?
Great question. We all have an individual purpose besides our collective purpose. How does Modeh help facilitate that? The answer to that is, how does one know what their individual purpose is? Not every one of us gets that message so clearly. The answer, of course, is a few things. Number one, you have to look at where you were born, where you live, the circumstances of your life, the gifts you were given, the resources you have, the challenges, problems, and struggles you have, and the circumstances that define your life now, because those are usually essential to your mission. So that's number one. Number two, you have to look at those things that you know are important, but they're very difficult for you, because usually that's part of your mission. That's why there's so much resistance. And number three, you have to ask yourself, is there a passion or skill that you have that is also a need for the world? Because usually where your passion meets a need in the world, usually that's where your mission is. Sometimes I may have passion, but nobody needs it. It's useless. Sometimes there's a lot of needs, but I couldn't care less for it. But often when there's two things, where you have a passion and there is a need, usually that's where your purpose is. And that's where Modeh is so helpful, because it helps on all three counts. First of all, it allows me to embrace my circumstances, my journey, where I was born, how I grew up, where I am today as a result, realizing that this is exactly where my soul needs to be. Number two, it helps me crystallize the fact that if there is resistance, it doesn't mean I have to back off. It means that my soul has the gift and the opportunity and the empowerment to be able to prevail. And number three, it asks me to always tune in to what my energy and light is, so I could give it to the world.
Wow. Profound. I think perhaps the last question, and you definitely need to touch on it, but I think it's worth clarifying. Is the faithfulness Hashem's faith in us, or our faith in Hashem?
Excellent question. When we speak about Rabbi Emunatecha, your faith is great. What does it mean? Is it his faith in us? Is it our faith in him? And you guessed it, we're good Jews. We like the cake and we eat it too. It was written in a way to include both interpretations. Great is your faith in me. You gave me another day. You believe in the world. You believe in me. You believe in why Rabbi, why Jacobson, or you believe in you, or you, every person who's here with us. God believes in you because he created you. He conceived you. He conceived your soul, implanted it in your body. Every moment is a miracle. So that's his faith in you, his trust in you, despite the fact that I may have made mistakes and I still have a lot of work on myself. That's number one. Number two, it's the great Rabbi Munasecha, great is the gift of faith that I have in you. And of course, you guessed it, both interpretations really are one. They're deeply connected, because God's faith in us is really our faith in him. Because what does it really mean that God has faith in me? What's the faith that God has in me? The faith that God has in me is God sees in me what I may not see in myself. God sees in me my faith, my beauty, my holiness, my glory. When God looks at me, what does he really see? It's like when you're looking at your little child, what do you see? You see an angel. You see the purity. You see the fortitude. You see the depth. You see the majesty. You see the angelic face. You see their soul shining. What's the challenge? The challenge is when that child is now 14 years old, could you still see the same angel? Michelangelo was once asked how he sculptured David. And you know what he said? I saw the angel trapped in the marble, and I chiseled away on the marble, and I set the angel free. That is what faith is. Faith is the place where you and God meet, where God's faith in you and your faith in God join to become one and the same. That's the place where the two meet. God's faith in you is unshakable because your faith in him is unshakable.
Wow. And with that faith, I think we can tackle anything that comes out our way during the day. So what a message to end off on. I think certainly for me, and I think I speak for many others in the audience, I can see the comments coming in that certainly going forward, I will be saying Modeh Ani with a renewed sense of understanding, of gratitude and intention. Rabbi, thank you. It's really been a privilege and an honor to even listen to you. And
Thank you.
You know, to talk to you is one of my highlights. So thank you for your profound wisdom, for your passion, and for your inspiration to us all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
The gift. And I want to thank everybody who came here today, this evening, and who's part of this initiative and this program, and thank Chabadas of Johannesburg, for putting it together. And I also want to, I want to tell all of you, when we wake up in the morning, it's a very, very powerful moment. It's a very, very special moment. If you could learn this prayer, because you don't want to go and schlep a prayer book, but if you could learn this, just 12 words, you could say it in Hebrew or in English or in both, and really open your eyes and just let go. I'm going to say something very personal and very vulnerable. For a lot of years in my life, right when I woke up in the morning, very negative thoughts would come into my brain. I don't even know why, but they would come into my brain. And I would go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, do whatever I got to do. And these crazy thoughts would come into my brain. I didn't know how to get rid of them. Like, I didn't ask for them. I didn't control them. I wasn't looking at my phone. I wasn't reading the news. I wasn't watching a horror movie. But these crazy, crazy thoughts came into my brain. And I had to do a lot of work around that, really, like a lot of emotional work, because a lot of crazy stuff I had to deal with these thoughts. And one thing I recently started to do is I say Modeh Ani, right? And then as I get out of bed, I will repeat those words. I will say, Ein Od Milvado, there's nothing outside of him. There's nothing outside of him. I'm part of him. Ein Od Milvado. It's good. Everything is good. And I found more and more that these thoughts slowly started to banish. And in each and every one of our lives, when you wake up in the morning, it's a very, very powerful moment. If you could just let go and tune into those words. And if you have to repeat them. You have to repeat them a few times. But to say them with presence and intention, you could see how powerful it is that 6, 7, 8 hours later, and you're having a hard day, you're in the office, or whatever you're dealing with, in your house, or in the office, or on a jog, or on a walk, or dealing with some crisis, and it gives you like a reference point and a center point, a paradigm to come back to.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that vulnerability, I think.
Good night to everybody. God bless you, sending you my love and blessings, and may we all see a new day, a new awakening for us, individually, collectively, for our homeland, for our people. It should be a year and a day of victory and redemption.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Good
night.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.